Alright, let me tell you about the wildest week I've had in a long, long time. It all started with my new neighbor, who we'll call Karen for the sake of the story. Now, I live out on a decent-sized ranch, and the main access to my property is through this big, rustic gate. It's been there for decades, long before this newfangled HOA even existed. But Karen, fresh from the city and armed with a 3-ring binder of HOA bylaws, decided my gate was a personal affront to her sense of suburban order. It started subtly. A note taped to the gate post: "Your gate violates Section 4, subsection B, regarding unapproved structures. Please remove it within 7 days." I chuckled, tossed it, and went about my day. I mean, come on. This gate is as much a part of this land as the old oak trees. The next day, there was another note, this time more aggressive. "Final warning," it screamed in red Sharpie. I still didn't think much of it. It's an HOA, they send letters. It's what they do. But then, things escalated. A few days later, I was heading out to run errands. And what do I find? Karen, standing right in front of my gate, arms crossed, with this smug look on her face. Beside her were 2 massive, bright orange construction sawhorses, effectively blocking me in. "You can't use this gate," she declared, puffing out her chest. "It's an unauthorized access point." I just stared at her, then at the sawhorses, then back at her. "Karen," I said, trying to keep my voice even, "this is the only way in and out of my property. I need to get to town." She just shook her head. "Not my problem. You should have thought of that before you violated the HOA rules." I explained that the gate was grandfathered in, that it predates the entire development. It was like talking to a brick wall, a very stubborn, self-righteous brick wall. I tried to reason with her. I even showed her the original property deeds on my phone, which clearly marked the gate as the primary easement. Her response: "Those are old. The HOA rules are new. New rules beat old rules." That's not how any of this works, but you can't reason with that level of confidence, can you? I told her she was illegally blocking my access and that I would call the sheriff if she did move her little barricade. She laughed, actually laughed in my face, and said, "Go ahead. They'll side with the HOA." So, I did. I called the non-emergency line and explained the situation. A deputy came out, and let me tell you, the look on his face when he saw the scene was priceless. He listened to my side, looked at my documents, and then walked over to Karen. The conversation was something else. She pulled out her binder and started pointing at pages, her voice getting higher and higher. The deputy just listened patiently. After about 10 minutes of her ranting about property values and uniform aesthetics, he finally held up a hand. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm but firm, "you are currently committing a crime. It's called unlawful imprisonment, and you're blocking a legal right-of-way. You have 2 minutes to move these sawhorses, or I'm going to have to place you under arrest." You could have heard a pin drop. Karen's face went from smug to shocked to pure, unadulterated fury. She sputtered something about her rights and calling her lawyer, but the deputy just tapped his watch. She glared at me, then at the sawhorses, and with a huff, she dragged them to the side of the road. She shot me a look that could curdle milk before stomping back to her perfectly manicured lawn. The deputy gave me a little nod and said, "Have a good day, sir. Let us know if she tries this again." I thought that would be the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. This wasn't just about a gate anymore. For Karen, this was war. The next phase of her plan was even more ridiculous. A few days later, I got a certified letter from the HOA board, formally demanding the gate's removal and fining me $500 for the violation. The letter was clearly written by Karen, who, I discovered, had somehow gotten herself elected as the secretary of the HOA board. It was filled with her usual brand of legalese-sounding nonsense. Now, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, but this was pushing it. I wasn't just going to pay a fine for a gate that was perfectly legal, so I did some digging. I went down to the county clerk's office and pulled all the public records for the HOA, the development plans, everything, and that's when I found it. The golden ticket. When the developer created the HOA, they had to file a master plan with the county, and in that master plan, clear as day, was my property. And what was marked on my property? Existing agricultural access easement. Not only was my gate legal, but its existence was a condition of the entire neighborhood's approval. The HOA legally could not touch it. They had no jurisdiction. It was ironclad. Armed with my newfound evidence, I decided to attend the next HOA meeting. Usually, these things are incredibly boring, but I had a feeling this one would be different. I walked in, and the first person I saw was Karen, sitting at the head table, looking like the queen of her own little kingdom. When it was time for new business, I stood up. I calmly introduced myself and said I was there to discuss the fines levied against my property. Karen immediately jumped in. "This has already been decided," she snapped. "You're in violation, and you need to pay the fine and remove the gate." The other board members, a couple of older folks who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else, just nodded along. That's when I pulled out my file. "Actually," I said, "I don't think I will." I laid out the certified copy of the county-approved master plan on the projector for everyone to see. I pointed to the section that clearly designated my gate as a protected easement. According to the founding documents of this very community, I explained, not only is my gate legal, but the HOA is legally prohibited from interfering with it in any way. The room went silent. Karen's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. She snatched the paper and stared at it, her eyes bugging out. This is a forgery, she stammered. I just smiled. It's a certified copy from the county records office. You can go check for yourself. In fact, by trying to block my access and levying fines, the HOA board, under your guidance, has been acting outside of its authority. I then addressed the other board members. This means the fines are illegal. And Karen's attempt to physically block my gate was also illegal, as the sheriff already told her. Continuing this crusade against my gate could open up the entire HOA to a very expensive lawsuit. The other board members started whispering to each other, looking panicked. The whole foundation of Karen's power trip was crumbling right in front of her. The meeting ended pretty quickly after that. The board voted to immediately rescind the fine and issue a formal apology. Karen was the only no vote. Of course, she just sat there, fuming. The aftermath was beautiful. Word got around the neighborhood fast. People I'd never even spoken to came up to thank me. Turns out, Karen had been terrorizing lots of people with petty violations. The wrong color mailbox, grass that was a 1/4 inch too long. My little stand gave everyone else the courage to start pushing back. At the next election, Karen was voted off the board in a landslide. And my gate, it's still standing, proud as ever. Every time I drive through it, I can't help but smile. Sometimes, all it takes to deal with a bully is a little bit of research and the guts to stand your ground. Karen still lives next door, but she doesn't make eye contact anymore. She just tends to her ridiculously perfect garden in silence. And honestly, that's a victory I'll take any day. So there you have it, the story of how a little bit of paperwork defeated the HOA Karen. It just goes to show you should always read the fine print. Thanks for listening to my story, and if you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time.